It's a great pleasure to welcome to What's Next, Itumeleng Merafe, who is the head of Private Bank SA at Investec. Itu, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good, Aki. How are you?
I'm superb, thank you. Listen, lots of stuff that I want to chat to you about and lots of things happening at Investec Private Bank. But let me start off by this new Investec Multicurrency Pocket feature on your private bank accounts. What's that all about?
Yeah, so Aki, I guess, looking at our clients and their needs and thinking about the different personas of client we have, we've been applying our minds quite deeply around what that is. We've seen in the market, many banks have different offerings in terms of currency accounts and clients traveling and all of that. But we took our time and thought, what's the thing that's going to be truly out of the ordinary and a little bit different to what everyone has? So what we said is there a way for us, instead of burdening clients with new cards, new accounts, having to open multiple cards, is on the Investec card that you have today, can we enable, using tech and smart tech, the ability to have one account, one card, but multiple currencies? That puts you in full control of your currency spend and when you buy currency, how you spend that currency. So instead of clients having multiple cards in their pockets, we've got a new feature on your existing private bank account that allows you to load 3 other currencies, being US dollar, pounds, and euros, and using one card for all 3 currencies.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And I'm glad that you've got that simplicity, that you don't need 3 separate accounts, 3 separate cards to do that. So when you use let's say you want to use a euro, for example, does the card know automatically what currency you want to use? How does it know what currency you want to switch to?
Absolutely, Aki. And I think that was one of the important features of this account is we said, well, how do we make it seamless and easy? What we find is our clients are living in a world that's feeling more and more borderless, right? Our clients are international by their very nature. And so what happens is at any point in time, it'll take you 3 clicks in order to load these pockets. You can then transfer funds from your Rand main account into any one of those currency pockets, 24/7 real-time FX, right? So you can do it in the moment that you need it. And then what happens is if you're traveling overseas and you're paying at a speed point and it is a euro invoice that you're paying for, what the tech does in the back is it'll first look in your euro pocket to go, is there funds in the euro pocket? If the answer to that is yes, it'll take the cash from there. If, however, the answer to that is no, it'll then revert back to your Rand account and do the FX transaction at that point in time. But you never have to toggle between which currency or have to decide where to go or have any manual intervention. The system in the background automatically checks to ensure that the currency that you're being invoiced in is a currency that you have already.
Wow, that's a really, really cool innovation. I love it. I love the simplicity of it. Now, who particularly will find this most useful, Itu? I mean, can you share a few examples of how someone might use multi-currency pockets in their day-to-day life?
Absolutely. There's a couple of personas that maybe I can give you a sense of. I guess the one, Aki, is if you were traveling with your family and you're going to be traveling with your family, it's going to be somewhere in Europe and you want to prepare for the travel. If you in particular now see that the Rand is strengthened, you can firstly start buying the currency today to prepare for that period that you're going to be traveling so that you don't have the FX risk. And when you're traveling, say, in Europe at that point in time, as you're paying for meals or experiences in Europe, you can use your exact same investor card. You don't have to take a different card, and it will then take cash from that currency pocket. That's the one persona. The other persona may be many of our clients subscribe to many offshore news channels, streaming services, and the likes, and often those are billed in hard currency. So you may be on a street platform or an international newspaper that charges you in dollars for the subscription. And what this allows you to do then is to pay directly in dollars. You don't have to then worry about whatever the FX is at that point in time. Another example is many of our clients are digital nomads. So you may be sitting in South Africa working for an offshore company in the tech space, and they pay you in hard currency. And you want to keep some of the hard currency you're getting paid in that hard currency. You don't have to then take that FX risk. Another example, Aki, that we often see is you may have a client who's traveling between many jurisdictions and doesn't want to, every time they travel, have to do that conversion in their mind. And so they want to keep cash and the currency of the jurisdiction that they're going to be in. That works out well. And of course, online shopping. All right. If you buy stuff online, you want to be able to pay for stuff online and you want to be able to be billed in the right currency, then you can do that without having to worry.
Okay, that's really cool. So you mentioned three currencies. I think you said the US dollar, the euro, and the pound, right?
Correct.
If I'm in Switzerland, for example, and the transaction is in the Swiss franc, does it default to euro, for example, or dollar? I mean, how would that work in a real time scenario?
So what it will do is it'll always default to your home currency being rand. So to the extent that the currency that's not in that pocket will go back to rand, which puts you in the same position you'd be in today. I think what is also important to note, Aki, is if you are in, say, the UK and you've got money in your British pound pocket, you could at a point in time choose that actually I don't want to use my pounds, maybe because the currency's moved in your favor, and at that point in time you want to preserve the pounds you have. You can very simply on the app click off or toggle off the pound pocket, which then means when you're paying in the UK, it'll go back to the rand. So you can also choose to preserve the hard currency that you have.
Gee, this is fantastic innovation from Investec. I guess that this product does challenge the legacy model of needing multiple bank accounts or third party apps to manage different currencies, right? Because it's quite a move from that model.
Absolutely. And if you think about the Investec Private Bank even prior to this, typically with many banks, you'd have a debit card and a credit card. One of our first innovations is our single card that you have with Investec is both a debit and a credit card, right? So what we did is we added onto that feature. And we said, instead of needing, as you say, third-party players or multiple cards, such that when you travel, you have to remember which card to take with you and all of that, we kind of went, how do we add to that? How do we add to that innovation? And from my understanding, we certainly are one of very few banks globally that have the debit and credit feature, full transactional account, as well as multi-currency on one card. And for me, part of what makes a private bank distinguished and out of the ordinary is the notion of simplicity and the notion of convenience.
Right. So I'm quite fascinated too about the seamless transaction that takes place in the background. How on earth did you guys do this? And what technology and innovation have you used to power this multi-currency pocket? And how does it make switching between currencies so fast and so seamless? I mean, it really baffles me that you can go to a pay point to pay for something in another country, and it just switches automatically. It knows what it's doing. How on earth do you guys do that?
Yeah, and Aki, I think the system we call that sort of our innovation, we call intelligent routing. And really what we built in the background, the system that we built in the background is one that does all those verifications for you. It kind of says the expense being presented to us is in dollars, check dollar pocket first. And that happens in a matter of milliseconds, right? And that's really the part of the true innovation of this that then allows it to happen on one card. I think what's also important to note, in South Africa, we do have exchange control and exchange control regulations. And one of the things we've also done in the name of convenience and simplicity is allowed for the fact that when you move from a rand pocket or from your rand account into the different currency pockets, all the reporting that's required in the background to XCon gets done automatically for you, right? So that you don't have to then do it later and have all that paperwork later. We've built it in such a way that if you're buying dollars from your rand account, the reporting happens automatically. At the point that you're buying the dollars, we will also flag to you how much of your single discretionary allowance you've already used up with Investec. So you've got $1 million you can use a year. If you've already used 800,000 of it as an example, when you're buying that currency, we will flag to you to say, this is how much you have left, just so that you also never fall foul of the regulations. Obviously, we can only show you the amounts you've used with Investec, but we'll be able to signal that to you upfront. And so you don't have any paperwork or regulatory issues down the line. And so the simplicity of the tech isn't just at the point where you're paying, but it's throughout the process. And for us, it was important to get that right end to end, to ensure that experience is seamless end to end.
So, and another thing I was just thinking about, sometimes when you going to a pay point to pay for something with your card, it asks if you want to pay in your local currency or your international currency. So obviously your Investec card already knows what the default is going to be. So that wouldn't come up, right?
100%. So that goes away. I mean, there's two things that can fall away, which are really important. The one is now you don't have that question happening. The tech is doing that for you in the background. Maybe three things. The second thing is that you don't have the risk of the FX at the point that you're paying, because you would have preloaded that, so you can take advantage of currency movements. But I think the last point to note is when you do pay for something and it asks you which currency you want to pay it. Often when you choose to pay in your home currency, the FX transaction that happens in the background has quite significant fees in it that you're going to pay. But if you're paying for a dollar transaction from your dollar pocket, you're not going to be levied any of those fees because you're already in dollars. So from a cost effectiveness perspective, it's also a lot better.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you made about the fees, because it can land up, if you're doing multiple transactions, it can land up costing you quite a bit of money. So how does this all fit into the bigger trend of banking becoming more digital and international?
Yeah, so the way we thought about it, as I said, is our clients are living more and more in a world that's feeling quite borderless. Their ability to have businesses in multiple jurisdictions, to earn revenue and income from different countries, from countries different from the businesses they work for, shopping in different places, and chasing experiences in other parts of the world. As a bank, we realize that our role is to facilitate, right? Our clients are the ones creating stuff, wanting experiences. What we have to do is meet our clients where they are. And so through looking at data, what we saw is that one of the highest things our clients spend on is travel. And so what we thought about is how do you make it easier and more convenient? And so as a bank, I think what's always been important to us, isn't about how we want to work and how we are set up. It's always been about what our clients need, how they set up, and how do we meet them where they are. And so for me, this is a further sort of entrenchment into the world of banking and being digital. And again, for us, being digital doesn't then imply that there aren't people involved, right? Many banks, Aki, talk about being either high tech or high touch. I always see that as a false choice. We can be both things. We are certainly high tech and high touch. And so our view was, to the extent you want to be able to do something, our digital platforms must be intuitive, easy, seamless. But if you want to speak to someone, then there will be an empathetic, intelligent person that you can get a hold of in one ring. So for me, this is a further entrenchment into the world of banking, meeting clients where they are, in a more borderless world, in a more seamless world, in a world of convenience, but also in a world where you can do things at the time that you want to do them. So if you're sitting at home and it's 11 p.m. and there's a president somewhere in the world who says something that you reckon is going to move markets, and you're going to be overseas, you can preempt that. And you can choose to go, well, let me buy my currency now so that I don't bear the cost later. So we put in the power back in your hands.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's really, really innovative stuff. Now, is this the first step in changing how people think about banking, not just in rands, but in multiple currencies, as we've been talking about, as part of their lifestyle, should I say?
Absolutely. I think that in the world we live in now, as I said earlier, people are purchasing things offshore. People are buying streaming services from offshore. They're getting their news services from offshore. And so people are starting to live in a world where they think about their day-to-day lives in multiple ways. And we just want to make it easier for people to manage it that way. The last thing you want to do is to purchase something on a platform online. And when that text comes through that reminds you of what you purchased, it's kind of like you're trying to do the conversion to go, what was the cost and what was this and that. You can do it real time in the cost that you need to be done. And so I think for me, as I said, as we get into a more borderless world, this is meeting that need. And it's allowing people to manage their lives in a way that they live their lives.
Very interesting. So as banking becomes more digital, and it's certainly what we've been seeing from Investec over the last few years, how does Investec actually balance cutting-edge technology with the personal human service your clients value? Because that is still at the core of what Investec is all about.
Absolutely. And that is something we do not intend to replace. We've seen and heard many, many other banks talking about shifting a lot more into digital. I guess how we view it is the following. There's many things that people can do for themselves. There's many things that are easily done on platforms, but there's other things that do require consultation. There's other things that do require conversation. And sometimes people need to bounce stuff off someone. And so for us, how we think about it is we're investing in both equally. We're ensuring that we have people in our organization who are intelligent, who are empathetic, who are client-centric, and who think about the needs of our clients at all times. And even in our tech and platforms, we have that same lens that we apply. And so for us, we're going, in order to build convenience, there's certain things that we can allow clients to do for themselves on platforms. because those things are pretty, quite simple, quite easy to do for themselves, quite intuitive to do for themselves. But what we've always maintained and will always maintain is, to the extent either on any of those journeys you get stuck, or if it's something new that you haven't done before, or it's something a little bit more bespoke or complex, that if you call and you need to speak to someone, you will not be met by a robotic voice or a chatbot or the other. You will be met by a human being. Because I think we certainly as an organization value connection, we value relationship, and we value what comes with the magic of getting to know you as a person individually. Now, Aki, I think our differentiator is in the meeting of those two things. And so if you have smart, intuitive platforms that give us data, and data that is rich, that can help us understand you better, and when that data then is fed into bankers who have a true relationship with you, the meeting point of those two things is truly where private banking lives.
Fantastic. Itumeleng Merafe, thank you very, very much for sharing those insights with us. I absolutely love the innovation, and I love how seamless it is. Head of Private Bank SA at Investec. Itu, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on What's Next.
Thanks for having me, Aki. Always good. Cheers.